Hello, hello. Welcome back. Okay, I wanted to talk about first. We just got back from the Superhuman event in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was hot as hell, but it was so good. If you don't know what Superhuman is, this is a coaching program for mostly men. I feel like they attract some women, but I feel like it's geared more toward men. But so that you can get in the best shape of your life, basically. They want like the people who want to be in like that top 1% in their fitness. And it was really a cool event. The owner is John Madsen. I did not know that he lived in Utah. He ended up walking on to SUU's, not SUU's, oh my gosh, the University of Utah onto their football team and then ended up going on to play for the Oakland Raiders for a little bit. But that is beside the point. He's a really cool guy. But the biggest thing that I learned this weekend is more of who I want to be, more of how I want to show up unapologetically in my life. I am not sure if I've talked about Todd Herman on here yet, but he was one of the speakers at the event, and he wrote this book called The Alter Ego Effect. And it is a book that I really loved. I have created a few different alter egos for different things, and I'm currently working on one for some things in my business that he kind of talked about on stage that really resonated with me and really felt like something that would really help me in my business. And I was like, okay. And one thing that I really recognized during this event was the fact that for me, I haven't been showing up unapologetic enough. I have been showing up, I have been playing small, I've been still a little worried about what other people think, and not even like family or friends, just like people that I don't even know. I'm like, well, how would they do this? Or what would they do? Or what would they say? Or whatever. And what I have come to realize is that I need to come back to my center. I need to come back to me. So this morning I actually went on a walk before I hopped on here to record. And I just really thought about who I want to be. What is the message I want to share with the world? Because I don't feel like I am a woman who sits real heavily on the feminine side. I feel like I kind of sit in between, if not a little more masculine. And I used to really judge that. And now I have decided, oh geez, that no, I am not going to judge that anymore. I am going to show up more as me, as who I want to be. I'm going to be unapologetic about it. I like the feminine side. I feel like I've gotten really good at receiving. I feel like I've leveled up my life. I've set boundaries. I've done all these things. And then on the other side of my life, it's like, okay, go, go, go. Like what my husband and I are doing, our house is currently under contract. We have to move in about 3.5 weeks at the time of this recording. And he's kind of freaking out. Like my husband's kind of freaking out just a little bit about where we're going and money. And like we had a set budget that we wanted to stay within for the rent. And a lot of the houses that we found are almost double. And I'm like, well, I'm not afraid of like a little stretch if it's going to get us where we want to be, what we want to have, and kind of in the network of people that we want to be in, which is like one of the goals of this move, aside from beautiful weather. But we can't continue focusing on what we don't want to create. And so if we continue to focus on it, we're going to keep pulling more of it into our lives. And so for me, I feel like I've just kind of leaned into this, like, you know what? One thing I know about us is that we will never allow ourselves to be homeless. We're never going to let our kids be homeless. And so I haven't stressed too much about the house and not having a house yet, even though we have to move in like 3.5 weeks, because I'm like, anything at any time can pop up on the interwebs. Anything at any time can pop up. And as long as we are doing our part in reaching out, in getting in touch with agents, getting in touch with people who we know from Arizona, and hopping into Facebook groups, as long as we do our part and trust, I believe it's all just going to work out. And I really just couldn't get myself stressed about it if I tried. It's really strange because this usually isn't me. I usually have a really strong manager part of me that's like, I need to know what the next step is and where we're going and what house we're living in and blah, blah, blah. And I just don't feel that way with this. The part of me that's really speaking up right now is the part that's like, all of these houses that you have looked at and loved are like way out of your budget and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, can we allow ourselves to show up more boldly in our lives? Can we trust ourselves to let it be a financial stretch and know that we're going to be fine? Like, I feel like sometimes we get stuck in these boxes we shove ourselves into, and it's like, but what if the reason we can't find, and this is like kind of how I look at it, and then I overthink it, right? But it's like, what if the reason we can't find the house within the budget that we want? We can find them all over the hottest parts of Arizona, right? There's like houses galore and beautiful and have pools and well below the price range that we want to be in, but that's not where we want to live. And so then, I don't know why I keep yawning. The energy must be shifting. Then I get in this overthinking mode of like, one, are we supposed to go somewhere else? Are we supposed to go? Is like the universe pushing us to go try one of these places first, right? But I will agree with my husband, like 115 degrees during the day and like 90 degrees at midnight. Like one night it was still like 99 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. It was not my favorite. But so then I get in this overthinking of, are we supposed to go somewhere else, or are we supposed to allow ourselves to stretch? And so this is what I've been just kind of like really pondering on my walks, is like, I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I think there's just a decision. And both decisions are going to be uncomfortable. The stretch financially is going to be uncomfortable, and the stretch in living somewhere that's a little bit hotter is going to be uncomfortable. So it's like, which discomfort is going to serve us best in the long run? Because when you bet on yourself, and this was something that John Madsen said, his talk was my favorite one of the whole event, but he said, when we bet on ourselves, we can never lose, because one, we're not going to let ourselves be homeless. Two, the reason that we're doing this is because we want to get in new networks of people. We want to give ourselves a business launch runway. I mean, our businesses are launched, but if we have a runway where all of the bills are paid, right? We're taking a portion of what we make off the house and we're using that. So we have created a yearly budget for living expenses out of what we made off the house. And then for the other portion of that, we plan to like invest and do other things with. So we're not going to be in dire straits, right? So there, for me, there's just this manager part that knows that we have money, that knows that the money's there, but it's like, but this is out of your budget. And for my husband, he's like stressing about, this is out of your budget. And if we continue to live in a fear in like, well, what if in 12 months from now, like we can't sustain this lifestyle? Well, if we continue to focus on that, of course we're going to get there, right? And so it's like, we've got to dial that back and say, what do we want to focus on? What do we want to create more of? What do we want to call toward us? And get ourselves out of this box. We are already doing something that is out of the norm for the people that we grew up with, for the people that we were like raised by. This isn't something that you do. This is a huge risk in their eyes, right? Huge risk. And to us, it's like, but this is where we get to learn, we get to grow, we get to take the pressure off of our businesses for 12 months. And it lights a fire under our ass. And that is what we are after, to put ourselves in a different environment, in a house that we desire to be in, with plenty of room for everybody, because right now, part of the reason is like all of our kids share rooms and it's just not working anymore. It's just not. And so this is part of our getting out of our comfy zone. This is our next stretch. This is our next thing. And a lot of people out there are like, why the hell would you do that? That's risky. Your house payment's only like $1,200 a month. Why wouldn't you just stay and wait it out? And maybe in a few years, the market will come down and all of this. But one, like, we don't love our neighborhood. Two, we don't love the house we're in. And so why would we continue? Like, I just have a desire for a different space. We all have a desire for a different space. And so how could we create that for ourselves? That was like the idea that came into my mind. And we've been sitting on this idea for about 1.5 years now, almost 2 years, because our house has actually been on the market for 6 months. And So we've been sitting on this for a while, and this wasn't just like a decision that we made on a whim. The idea popped into my head on a whim, right? Like when we do the breath work, when we do the inner work, and these inspired ideas drop in, now you have the choice to take action on that. And so it's like at one point, and maybe like you have done the same thing, is the inspired idea came in. It was like summery. I don't know. I keep yawning. Summery season a couple of years ago. It was like summer. And we decided we were going to do it. And then I remember December hit, and I finally looked at my husband and I was like, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? We're never going to feel ready for this. We're never going to feel completely comfortable doing this. And so what do we need to do? Like, what are we waiting for? And he was like, you know what, you're right. And so the next month we had our house listed, and now here we are still 6 months later. And there's one thing, holy crap, you guys, I keep yawning. Like energy is moving today. One thing that I have learned is over the past 6 months with our house sitting on the market, it has been like, one, the universe is like, okay, how serious are you? How serious are you? Like, can you be patient? And two, there has been that little bit of fear of like, oh my gosh, like, should we just pull it off? Maybe this isn't the right choice. Like maybe we need to just pull it off the market. That's why it's not selling. And got completely in a cycle of overthinking that. And I was like, okay, here's how you tell when one of your out of the box ideas is right for you or feels good to you. How did it feel in your body when you made this decision? How did it feel in your body when you made this decision? And so for me, when I know a decision feels like aligned, it feels right, it feels like what we desire to do, it feels really light, almost like this uplifting feeling in my gut of like a yes, like just a pure yes from like the most internal depths of my soul. And so ask yourself, because when we have those moments of inspired action, inspired ideas that come to us, and it feels really good and it feels like our next step and it feels like what we want to do, then we get to make a decision from that place, because the decision that was made during that time was made from a place of my highest self, right? Our highest self. We believed in what was possible. We knew what we could create. We knew what 12 months of runway would give us. And we knew we could bet on ourselves because we do the work. And so I want you to look at yourself. Oh my goodness. I want you to look at yourself, and I want you to ask yourself, what do I desire to create in my life? And kind of think about, because the how truly is none of our business, right? The how is none of our business. And that's me. Like, I'm like, I don't know how we're going to find a place to live, but we have exhausted every effort. We have reached out to Airbnb people to see if they'd be willing to rent their homes for a long term. We've reached out to real estate agents. We have looked at homes that are currently on the market for sell, but because the market's so slow, some of them were willing to rent for 12 months. So I've reached out to other people that I just know live in Arizona to see if they know anybody. Like, there's going to be a connection somewhere, right? But as long as we do our part, it's going to fall into place, and it might fall into place better than we ever could have expected, right? It could have been like, somebody heard from somebody else that you were looking for this, and oh, my grandpa has this, or, like whatever it is. We can't ever plan out the perfect how. And so just asking yourself, if I couldn't mess this up, if everything would go perfectly, if this was going to work out, like everything's going to work out better than I ever could have imagined, what would I desire to do right now? And I want you to really think about, what would you desire to do? And then just let yourself sit with that. Like answers might not come right away, or they may have come right away. But if they haven't, like allow yourself to sit with that. What do I desire to do? What do I desire to do? What do I desire to do? And eventually, because our subconscious cannot leave a question unanswered, eventually ideas are going to start to pop into your head. And when those ideas pop into your head, then you get to use the filter. Like if you felt really good and excited about that idea that popped into your head, then take action toward that, right? Because one decision is going to lead you down a path, but you never know when that path's going to hit like this fork in the road, right? And then you're going to need to make another decision that's going to lead you another direction. And in the end, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, holy shit, that worked out way better than I ever could have imagined. And so that is what I want for you. And so when it feels right in your body, when an idea pops in and it feels so good that you are like, I have to do this, that's your answer. Like that is the direction that you get to go and make it all happen. And so I just wanted to drop that here today, that get yourself out of the box. Stop thinking that everything has to be like this chronological order. It has to look a certain way. You have to do like step 1 before you can do step 2. Like it's just a decision. There's no right or wrong decisions. And each decision you make is going to lead you in a direction. And you are the only one who can be like, oh, I don't like this direction, and change it. Right. And so don't get hung up on the path of like, this has to be the way. So, like, for me right now, in our situation, I'm like, I'm open to moving somewhere else. Like, we don't want the scorching hot Arizona heat. We want like the beautiful year-round weather. Sedona offers very beautiful weather year-round, but I also don't want to live in like a super touristy town, which I feel like Sedona is. Kind of reminds me of Jackson Hole, if you've ever been there, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Just a lot of tourists, Antler Arch, like photo op. I don't know. I just think of those things, but we're open to other areas. And so it's like, okay, as long as we are an open channel to receive what comes our way, we can then make a decision when something new pops in. And so just sit with that. Sit with that. Ask yourself what you want. I think that's the best question to ask ourselves all the time is like, what do you really, really want? If nothing could go wrong, if you couldn't screw it up, what would you desire to create in your life? And then go create that, because what if it becomes even more amazing? Like, what if it turns out even better than you ever could have imagined? And the way that you got there, you never could have planned it. And so just keep taking those steps, keep showing up in the way that you want to show up, and it will all work out just as it's supposed to. I will talk to you next time.